About 6 months ago, I was doing some manager training for a company that does contract manufacturing here in Iowa. And the owner of the company brought up an issue or a topic to me regarding an employee and how to communicate differently using threads. And it's one that I think might be helpful to some of you. The issue in particular was an employee who has been outstanding in terms of living the organization's values and in terms of producing results that were required for their position. The person was a cost estimator and mainly worked on the inside servicing outside customers. He was being promoted to the job of sales manager. And this is really the interesting part. He said that this employee who had been outstanding after this promotion was really no longer meeting his expectations. He talked to him a few times here and there, but he'd never really actually drilled down into what the problem was. But the things that he noticed were pretty familiar to me. He noticed that the employee tended to revert back to his old job whenever he was pressured with something new. If it was a new skill he needed to be learning, if it was managing employees or managing the sales process and helping other people, he was uncomfortable with that, and he tended to move back to doing what it was that he was comfortable with, which is cost estimating. And he was considering actually terminating this employee. He said, the guy's just not doing what I need him to do. So I asked him this question. When you offered the promotion to the employee, you talked to him about what the expectations were, but when it came to threads, were the new expectations clearly defined in the graph? And when you gave him the promotion, did you let him know that now he was in the upper left-hand quadrant of the graph? And he said, no, why would I do that? He said, the employee's great. And I said, there's a key reason why you do that. First of all, the employee who is in the upper right-hand green box doing this job is now being promoted to a brand new job. When you're promoted to the new job, you haven't really gone through the process of producing the results that are required. I mean, think about it. A manager has to be helping to support other employees. They have to be managing the sales process. They have to be coordinating efforts with marketing on messaging and valuable content and stuff for customers. And those are the things that you really wanted him to do. And maybe those are part of the job description, but we never really put that in front of him. We never said on day one, you've been a fantastic employee in the past and I'm expecting that you're going to do great in the future. But today, as you start this new job, you're up in the upper left-hand quadrant. We're really comfortable with your values, but you have a lot of work to do to be meeting our expectations and to be contributing positively to our culture when it comes to results. And he looked at me with kind of a puzzled look on his face and he said, I hadn't really ever considered that before. And I said, why don't you try talking to him in those terms? Why don't you try bringing that up to him? And so I followed up with him about 3 weeks later, and he said that he had talked to the employee and that he had brought this up to him, and that the employee said that there were several things in those areas that he was uncomfortable with. He said, I have a difficult time communicating with employees and trying to help motivate. I'm really good at the job, but some of those personal skills I'm maybe not quite as good at. And when I get uncomfortable, I tend to steer myself into activities that I'm comfortable with. And he said, what can I do to help you get that training? What kinds of things could I do? He coordinated with human resources. They looked for some different kinds of training in terms of leadership, in terms of communication, and they started the person down a little different path. Most importantly, he told him on that day where he was on the threads graph. He said, you are in this yellow quadrant, and these are the steps that you need to begin to take to start moving your way towards the green quadrant and contributing positively to our culture. And he said it wasn't a negative conversation. He said this new manager understood it, accepted what he had to say, and understood the importance of it. And as he went about his day, he began focusing on those key objectives that he needed to be doing for this new position. He said, like in most cases, the conversation wasn't as difficult as he thought, that the process he was going to go down with termination was absolutely the wrong decision, and that nothing more than a half-an-hour conversation presented in a slightly different way was something that actually saved an excellent long-term employee and prevented a very expensive situation for the company. People say these things are tough and they're difficult to do, and what I always try to do is make the case. The case for doing this is that people in your organization are looking at you. The people that were working for this new manager, looking for his leadership, weren't getting it. And when they see that leadership's not coming, eventually they'll look to you. They'll look to the person who can make the change or help coach this employee. And if you think that it's maybe just going to happen on its own, or the situation might just fix itself on its own, I think you know that that's probably not the case either. So be confident, understand that you're communicating differently with threads, and give it a try. I think you'll be really satisfied with the results.